I think, yeah, give yourselves a hand. I think it's safe to say that this is the most international panel of poets at this festival you're going to encounter. A really wide-ranging range of voices and opinions and lives. And we don't have very much time. We have 6 poets, 5 minutes each, and they don't know this, neither does Shiny, but we have rigged the mics so that if anybody goes over 5 minutes, it administers a gentle shock, which gets stronger as the seconds progress. The first poet today is David Puig from Santo Domingo, part of the long tradition of diplomats who are poets. Think of Octavio Paz in India and Pablo Neruda in Sri Lanka. David is the ambassador of the Dominican Republic in India, and among other things, he's translated Indian poetry, specifically Arun Kolatkar. Ladies and gentlemen, David Puig.
Thanks, Jeet, but putting me in the same tradition of Octavio Paz and Pablo Neruda puts a lot of pressure on me. What I will read was written in Spanish, and I have translated it for all of you. And basically, it's part of a long, and I will say potentially unending series of short prose texts which are written or inspired by conversations I've been having with astrologers, mainly in Delhi over the last 2 years. And the idea of the whole, let's say, body of text is that through this series of texts, somehow an image of myself, my past, my present, my future emerged, but in a way it's not really written by me, it's written by what the astrologers tell me, so it's a collection of found texts, basically. Okay, so here we go. One of the astrologers who sets the table for his consultations in front of the Hanuman temple told me that I should be careful when walking around Delhi. He mentioned the possibility of an accident. A mother and her daughter were waiting for their turn. They wanted to know if the Canadian study visa for which the young woman had applied would be granted, and also if she will get married before leaving India. The astrologer who sits on weekends at the Oxford bookstore in Connaught Place recommended that I eat and drink more green things. I shared this with a friend who, a few weeks later, gave me a bag of Japanese green tea. The astrologer took me to a crammed office at the back of a workshop near Paharganj, where statues of gods were being carved, polished, and painted. He entered my details in his phone and, looking at his screen, informed me that I had to change my wedding ring from one finger to another the following Saturday between 11:30 and 12:30. Before the consultation began, he told me about his lineage. His relatives had been astrologers for more than 300 years. His father had been the astrologer at the Hyatt Hotel in Delhi for 2 decades. The astrologer at the small temple near the Jama Masjid in Old Delhi warned me to always be very careful with imposters. The astrologer I saw at the RK Puram Sector 4 main market assured me that India will still be a stable country the following year, especially, he said, if the Bharata Janata Party remained in power. The astrologer insisted we do the session without video, with phone only, he said. He mentioned he was somewhere in Haryana near Kurukshetra, where he was a university professor. He assured me that I would finish the novel I had left halfway a few years back. It will be published, but don't expect anything from it, he said. He then advised me not to begin a second novel and to focus instead on writing about my travels. The astrologer sent on my phone a 56 pages PDF with diagrams and long paragraphs about my character. A few minutes after I had transferred the agreed amount to his account and I had shared my name, place, date, and time of birth. Before our conversation, I skimmed through the document and noted what caught my attention. Morbid curiosity over unfamiliar things tend to keep wandering in many places, more inward than more, born collector. The astrologer was waiting for clients under a tree near the Kumar juice shop and the tattoo stalls in the vicinity of the Hanuman temple. He was dressed in white from head to toes. His deep black mustache, thick and shaved at the edges, was the center of gravity of his face. My arrival seemed to surprise him. He looked at me suspiciously when I sat in one of the two chairs in front of his table and asked him to read my palms. After a quick examination, he stated that I was married. He also believed I had been unfaithful to my wife before marriage and would again be unfaithful in the future because, he said, I was attracted to beauty. The astrologer's small office felt hermetically sealed when I stepped in and closed the door behind me. It was located in an area of the Karol Bagh market where most of the shops were owned by jewelers. The first thing he told me was, "This is the right time to find the keys." When I asked him what keys he was talking about, he said, "Sometimes the body is like a box in which we have misplaced the keys." The astrologer's assistant, whose name and number I had found in an advertisement in the Saket Mall, responded to my message offering me a 40-minute Zoom session for 31,063 rupees. Given my silence, he contacted me again 2 days later with the proposal to reduce the price of the session to 25,500 rupees. "Believe me," he wrote, "you will never regret talking to him. He will clear all your doubts." Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for that amazing reading. Next up is Jamal Ouazzani. He's originally from Casablanca, Morocco. He's part of the queer Muslim caravan, which has been on a kind of an India tour. He is a poet, essayist, filmmaker, and activist. And his first book was launched 2 months ago. It's about the revolution of love through Arab or Muslim wisdom. Jamal.
Hi everyone, what a beautiful crowd for poetry. I will read you a poem that I wrote for myself, for my inner child. It's called Interior Life, and I will say the first lines in French. J'ai longtemps habité dans la vaste Afrique que le soleil marin teignait de mille feux, les foules emmoulant les images de Dieu, mêlent le totem, les tabous et la mystique. I found the inner child to make peace, in a time when the past does not yet exist, who fears neither calm nor Allah's bliss, who lives in the present, whose peace I can miss. They call me Miss, but I'm a mystery. Life has engulfed me since my chest was bare, to make room for immersion at any cost, to the hollow body, soul, and silly thoughts that let me sink beneath my unbreathable air. Survived as a shapeshifter with mad composure, a mute fantasy, now turned phantomic, often haunts my dreams, the most dramatic, shows with fervor how much I was unsure of my resistance, unsure of my existence. I've been called Jamal, the beauty that Allah loves. Allah yuhibbul Jamal. But how can Allah create a beautiful monster? You weigh me down, burden of my name, a cursed charm that drives me insane. Snowed under the vein, my veins and my brain, drowning in my organs, who should I blame? In the dry mist, my memories condense. Words, smells, miasmas, and fears intense. My psyche and my guts shall not maintain repressed stories and vile vapors pain. To make a baby, you must make love. But I dive as a nomad into my urge's grove. Besides chasing skirts, I want to court the hearts of those who have no passport. The undocumented humans, the counter-nature humans, the limp-wristed with strong fists, the twisted and the misfits. Guilty pleasure, but innocent in my eyes. Why am I? Why did you make me thus? Father, mother, and you who is in skies. Where does the abyss end? Here amidst fuss? In queer lands where I'm a stranger, like a wandering wolf, I howl my distress. You, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, the merciful, you made of me a fool. Cut through my spine with arrow, split my torso and suck the marrow. Under my skull, stunned by gravity, a fatal storm numbs me in captivity. Stripper pulls me to depths so profound, where my rusty blood mingles with white ground. Unaware still of my subconscious, aware already of being too conscious, I knew just that I knew nothing, and the more I know, the more I am a nothing. Again this disdain, again this body, this corpse that is but my life's antibody. It warps before a broken mirror's glance, melting the persistence of my remembrance. My inner life is matched only by my emptiness, revealing the doubts of my loneliness, and which only cure will be to delve into the secret pain of when I was 12. Eureka! I found the light. Was darkness the cave or the universe around it? Fiat lux, I'm gaining sight. I emerge from this darkness, embrace the sun's care, like Oedipus Rex facing the mom's despair. How many times did I extinguish myself? How many dreams did I miss? How many demons did enter my cell? How many desires did vanish out of terror? How many fires did I relish out of candor? I let my feet burn for a taste of hell. I left smoked pieces of my skin and shell. I bet fire was my only destiny. I set fire to the man I could be. Then one day, I became that fire. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Jamal. He was reading in English, but that's only one of 5 languages that he knows. Next up is Manjul Bajaj from Goa, all the way from Goa. She's primarily a fiction writer, also the author of a book of short stories called Another Man's Wife, a novel called In Search of Here, and she most recently translated a book of Bulleh Shah's poetry called The Book of Bulleh. Ladies and gentlemen, Manjul Bajaj.
I'll read 2 pieces for you, one short and one a little longer. The first is called Manifesto. Manifesto. I want to write like the poets of yore, about embers and sparks and ashes, words that singe and burn a hole in the heart and leave it gaping. I want Poems that unfold like an umbrella for two over the lead pair in an old love song, drenched in the rains and soaked in wet passions. Poems that sizzle like cold rain on hot tarmac. I want words that shout and rail at injustice, words that can drum up the heartbeat of a nation, poems that make people march out on the streets, songs that can rouse and start a revolution. I want songs that brood in despair and plumb the depths of being human, that waste and want in abject dejection, quaffing life like a bitter potion, songs of utter devastation. I want words and poems and songs that are not scared of living dangerously. I want words that dare to bear, words that stand up naked and say to you, I am like this. Are you any different? Okay, the second piece is called Haridwar. Thank you. This is a piece I wrote for my mother long ago, and it's an old favorite. Haridwar. When I was innocent of the scheme of life, if at all life then had a scheme, it used to puzzle me to see you sobbing, mother, your long face and eyes full of unnamed sadnesses. For didn't you yourself say that life was good? So I never understood your vehemently voiced longing every yet again for Haridwar. Haridwar. As I grew up, it became our private joke. You said you'd leave for Haridwar after I left home for college. You said you'd live in Haridwar after I got a job. And surely, when I got married, to Haridwar you would proceed. But you never went. Haridwar was the first real confession my mother-in-law made to me when I stepped into her home. One woman to another, she said, soon she would go to Haridwar. It seemed then like deja vu, a joke gone sour, after her daughters were settled. After this year, certainly the next, she would head for Haridwar. But she never went. Haridwar. When I first went there, I could not see anything that you might want midst the temple priests and the crowded bathing ghats and the various cacophonies competing to be heard. Surely, this was no place to be searching for peace or sanity or whatever it is that you were after. Haridwar. Now, I have been married some and have a house to run. Now I know what you meant. A place far, far away and so crowded that we can get lost and not be found, and so noisy that even if they all shout in unison, husband and kids and servants, vegetable sellers and milkmen and gardeners, we would not hear them above the din. Haridwar. I found it quite by accident. Between the pages of a book I began to write. Come, Ma, I will take you there. There is a Ganga of clean, pure, sparkling words, and there are hidden ghats in my Haridwar. And though it is not noisy, if anyone shouts for towel or toothpaste, or cries for praise or approval, or complains that there is too little salt or too much, I simply do not hear. Haridwar. Come, Ma, to my Haridwar. And though you will not want to settle there, it'll help you find your own. For I swear it exists somewhere, a click of your knitting needles away, or perhaps amongst the layers of your perfect cannellini, or in that row of lemon squash bottles that you made for us each summer. I don't know where exactly, but Ma, I'm sure it exists. Your Haridwar is waiting for you to come. Go, mother, go, find it. Thank you. How are we doing for time? May I read one? Okay, I'll just read a small piece from the Book of Bulla, which is my most recent book. It's a translation of 100 poems by Bulle Shah. Make the Ganga flow backwards. O seeker, make the Ganga flow backwards. Then you'll get a glimpse of God. Cotton balls of love on your palm, the axle steady in hand. Spindle of knowledge, the spinning wheel of meditation. Now spin it backwards. Let Kumkaran go back the route he came. Let the secret of Lanka become unrevealed. Let Ravan, the 10-headed one, stand undestroyed. Take Lakshman back to where the unstruck music played. Leave the Guru's feet. Leave being his servant. Go back to when you were one with him, when everything all around was God. Enter the realm of pure bliss, O seeker. Make the Ganga flow backwards. Thank you.
He's from Bhubaneswar. He writes in Oriya and English. He's written 30 books of poetry, non-fiction, and fiction. He's an editor, translator, and the publisher of Dowley Books, and he curates the Odisha Art and Literature Festival. Ladies and gentlemen, Manu Dash.
Thank you. I will read in a first poem in Odia because I love Odia language, and that is the first language in which the state was carved out in India first, based on language. My friend Mani Rao knows it. The poem which I am going to read, I'll just give one line. It is a Anam poem. Anam was a poetry movement in Odisha, started in 1969, where I joined in 1975. And very few people are writing Anam poem. If you Google, you can find what is Anam poem. Later, anybody is interested, I can tell how it is different than others. Now, let me read. ବାଘ ଶୋଇଥିଲା ନିଘୋଡ଼ ନିଦରେ ମିରିଗ କରିଲା ନାଟ ଅମୁହା ଦେଉଳେ ମୁହନ୍ତ ଦିଶୁନି ହେଲେ ଚାରିଆଡ଼େ ଖାଲି ଫାଟ ଭଲା ସମୟରେ ଭାଲୁ ଧରିଅଛି ଗୁରୁକୁ ବଳିଲା ଚାଟ ସଙ୍ଗତରେ ରସି ପଙ୍ଗତରେ ବସି ଖାଲି ହେଲି ଲୋକ ହସା ନେତ ନେତ ବୋଲି ନେତାଏ ବାଉଳା ଶକୁନିକୁ ଡର ପଶା ସମୟ ଗାଉଛି ପଦୁଅ ତୋଳା ତ ସାପ ଖୋଜୁଅଛି ବାଟ ବାଘ ଶୋଇଥିଲା ନିଘୋଡ଼ ନିଦରେ ମିରିଗ କରିଲା ନାଟ ଅମୁହା ଦେଉଳେ ମୁହନ୍ତ ଦିଶୁନି ହେଲେ ଚାରିଆଡ଼େ ଖାଲି ଫାଟ ଭଲା ସମୟରେ ଭାଲୁ ଧରିଅଛି ଗୋରକୁ ବଳିଲା ଚାଟ ଯାହା ତ ଧରିଲି ସିଏ ଆଡ଼େଇଲା ଜୀବନ ତ ଦୋଚାରୁଣୀ କହରେ କାଳିଆ ହାତୀ ଗଳିଗଲା ପିମ୍ପୁଡ଼ି ରହିଲା କେମିତିଆ କଲୁ ଗୁଣି ବୁଦ୍ଧ ବୁଦ୍ଧ କହି ବୁଦ୍ଧି ହଜିଗଲା ନଈକୁ ଗିଳିଲା ଘାଟ ବାଘ ଶୋଇଥିଲା ନିଘୋଡ଼ ନିଦରେ ମିରିଗ କରିଲା ନାଟ ଅମୁହା ଦେଉଳେ ମୁହନ୍ତ ଦିଶୁନି ହେଲେ ଚାରିଆଡ଼େ ଖାଲି ଫାଟ ଭଲା ସମୟରେ ଭାଲୁ ଧରିଅଛି ଗୁରୁକୁ ବଳିଲା ଚାଟ ଚତୁରେ ଚତୁରେ ସର୍ବେ କୋଳା କୋଳି ଠିକଣା ବେଳକୁ ନାହିଁ ମିତକୁ ଠକୁଛି ମିତଣୀ ଏବେ ତ ନୀଳ ଚକ୍ର ଆଡ଼େ ଚାହିଁ ଧନ୍ୟ ସେ ପିରତି ଧନ୍ୟ କରାମତି ସୁନ୍ ସାନ୍ କଳାହାଟ ବାଘ ଶୋଇଥିଲା ନିଘୋଡ଼ ନିଦରେ ମିରିଗ କରିଲା ନାଟ ଅମୁହା ଦେଉଳେ ମୁହନ୍ତ ଦିଶୁନି ହେଲେ ଚାରିଆଡ଼େ ଖାଲି ଫାଟ ଭଲା ସମୟରେ ଭାଲୁ ଧରିଅଛି ଗୁରୁକୁ ବଳିଲା ଚାଟ ମାନକୁ ଉଦ୍ଧାର କରିବା ଆଶାରେ ଗୋଟାଉଛି ମାନପତ୍ର କାନ୍ଥ ଭରିଗଲା ସଜାଉ ସାଉଣ୍ଡେ ଜୀବନ ମନ୍ତ୍ର କାଲିକି ଦିଦିନ ବାହାଘର ପରେ ବେଦୀ ମୁହଁ କଳା କାଠ ବାଘ ଶୋଇଥିଲା ନିଘୋଡ଼ ନିଦରେ ମିରିଗ କରିଲା ନାଟ ଅମୁହାଁ ଦେଉଳେ ମୁହଁ ତ ଦିଶୁନି ହେଲେ ଚାରିଆଡ଼େ ଖାଲି ଫାଟ ଭଲା ସମୟରେ ଭାଲୁ ଧରିଅଛି ଗୁରୁକୁ ବଳିଲା ଚାଟ ପଢ଼ୁଥା ବସି ପାଠ ବାଇ ମନ ନହେଲେ ବାଜିବ ଛାଟ। I'll read then one poem, short poem from my book. Folklore. Grandmother died of a diarrhea before father's marriage. Childhood was free from demons and ghosts. There is a handful of imagination borrowed from the neighbor's stockpile. Of late, I have been groping for the tender breasts of words, but the cow-like mimosa the moment I touch the skin. Nights have turned into asylums, stars suffer from insanity, dawn awaits the first light without performing any recce. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Manu. Next up is a poet who comes to us all the way from Saigon, now known as Ho Chi Minh City. She doesn't live in Saigon. She's married to a diplomat, not David. And she lives in, of all places, Kyrgyzstan. She's the author of 2 novels, The Mountains Sing and Dust Child. And she says that the only reason she wrote these novels is because she wanted people to read her poetry. Ladies and gentlemen, Kwai Mai.
Hello, Bangalore. How are you today? Wow, I see poetry in each and every one of you. Thank you so much for turning up. India is really the land of poetry. I see poetry everywhere I go. I see it in the people. I see it in the food. I see it in the hospitality. Thank you so much. I grew up reading poetry from India, from Tagore. Tagore is my great hero. And it's such an honor to be reading my poetry here on the land of Tagore. Thank you so much for being here. Would you like to hear some poetry in Vietnamese? Should I read it in Vietnamese first or English first? Vietnamese. Okay. So, my 2 novels, like Jeet said, thank you very much. The Mountain Sing and Dust Child are about the history of Vietnam. And they are my epic poems about history of Vietnam through the lives of the people. And this poem is like that too. It's dedicated for my grandmother who perished in the Great Hunger of 1945 together with 2 members of my family. So many people don't know that during World War II, 2 million Vietnamese people died during the French and the Japanese occupation of Vietnam. And three of them died together, and because a lot of people in our village were killed during this great hunger due to the starvation. We had no food to eat, that there were really few people left to bury them. So we did not find the grave of my grandma until many, many years later. So this poem is for my grandma. Thank you. I feel her spirit here with us. Bài thơ chưa thể đặt tên. Nâng bát cơm trên tay, những hạt gạo gặt từ cánh đồng bà tôi nằm xuống. Từng hạt gạo ngọt thơm như lời ru của bà, người tôi chưa hề biết mặt. Tôi hình dung khuôn mặt bà mềm mại khi bà được chôn vào lòng đất, quần áo tơi tả ra bám chặt với xương. Trận đói năm 45 làng tôi đói mồ chôn xác chết. Mồ bà không ai biết, bát cơm đắng miệng cha tôi 65 năm. 65 năm sau hương hồn tổ tiên dẫn cha và tôi đến trước mộ bà. Lần đầu tiên tôi nghe cha gọi mẹ, cánh đồng lúa sau lưng cha run rẩy. Hai chân tôi bám chặt vào bùn, nghe trong khói hương hồn bà lan tỏa. bám sâu vào đất, mọc rễ vào ruộng đồng. Bà sẽ hát khu gọi lúa chỗ đồng. Nâng bát cơm trên tay tôi đếm từng hạt gạo, từng hạt óng ánh mồ hôi của tổ tiên tôi còng lưng gieo gặt. Từng hạt óng ánh thơm lời ru của bà tôi đơm lên từ lòng đất. Ngoài kia trong hoàng hôn, lời ru bà tôi khe khẽ chỗ đồng. The poem I can't yet name. My hands lift high a bowl of rice, the seeds harvested in the field when my grandmother was laid to rest. Each rice seed tastes sweet as the sound of lullaby from the grandmother I never knew. I imagine her soft face as they laid her down into the earth. Her clothes battered, her skin stuck to her bones. In the great hunger of 1945, my village was starved for graves to bury all the dead. Nobody could find my grandmother's grave, so my father tasted bitter rice for 65 years. After 65 years of searching, spirits of my ancestors led my father and me to my grandmother's grave. I heard my father call Mom for the first time. The rice field behind his back trembled. My feet clung to the mud. I listened in the burning incense how my grandmother's soul spread, joining the earth, taking root in the field where she quietly sang lullabies, calling the rice plants to blossom. Lifting the bowl of rice in my hands, I count every seed, each one glistening with the sweat of my ancestors, their backs bent in the rice field, the fragrance of my grandmother's lullaby alive in each one. Thank you so much. Thank you for keeping my grandma alive by listening to this poem. And thank you for helping me honor my ancestors and what Vietnamese people or Vietnamese or people around the world have had to go through because of colonization, because of wars and armed conflicts. Thank you for reading my books, The Mountain Sing and Dust Child, which are available at the bookshop, which I could be very happy to sign for you later. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Quay Mai. Wonderful reading, thank you. Next up, Ozan Zakariya from Berlin, also part of the Queer Muslim Caravan Project, which includes people from France, Germany, and India doing a kind of an Indian tour. Today is the last day of that tour, and you're catching a flight later, probably from here. He's a writer of essays, fiction, and poetry. Ladies and gentlemen, Ozan.
Is that, yeah. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Oh, thank you. I'm gonna read a poem which is part of my second poetry book, in which mythology, Muslim spirituality, and queer intimacy come together. Who of you ever fell in love with a man? Raise your hand. No one fell in love with a man? So sad. Me too. And who suffered from that love? More people raising their hands. I dedicate this poem to my friends and my lover in the audience. Shahmaran's will. Keep talking. Bal is dripping from your mouth, honey is dripping. Those were my words, and your saliva in my feet. Forest of tiles, wind of flames, a swipe already trapped in a net. The dancing back has betrayed me, my hunter friend. Let's eat something sweet, to speak sweet. Those were your words, and I took a bite. Every message a fire, and the tongue an emergency kit. I don't know what the beginning was anymore. My snake scales on your Adam's paws, or your Adam's paws on my snake scales. But God loves those who are patient. This comfort is mine to keep. Shahmaran, you have whispered in my left ear, pinched my mustache with your fingers. I took it as a compliment. I couldn't read the signs. Twitter storms in front of my eyes. That's how you inevitably go blind. Your image in the shadow, it obediently follows. That's the rule. Once upon a time, never upon a time. Read that and the rest. I pinched your mustache with my talons, whispered the Ozan in your ear, called Jemsep and Jimshit and Tsmsp. The fairy tale gave you many names, and I summoned you with all of them. I remember, young and a 5-minute break. A body filled with promises, shiny fur of a wet otter, borrowed fur coats, a victim in the realm of the gods, or snakes, depending on how you look at it. Your bed a zoo, home game. At night, we turned our pupils into our hearts like phone cameras, threw moon seeds over our hair. Star water, lantern dust, turned secrets inside out like a shirt. Chest and stomach, our reward. A love letter from Sodom in blue light. Two people lost in each other over the city's roof tiles. We scrolled ourselves over window panes, wrote the shadows of our backs in the break of dawn. Your Adam's skin on my snake scales, my snake scales on your Adam's skin. Box spring mattress, storm of fingers. For this memory, there are no filters, Yar. Let me be the sweat in your crotch. Earth under your nails. The socks you don't take off while sleeping, Yar. God alone is closer to your jugular vein than my breath. Read the salt on your neck that knows my tongue better than, its thirst greater than. I don't know what the end was anymore. Wrath or tears, tears or wrath. But God loves those who forgive. So blanch me, Jemsep. Soak your greed in my soup, Jemshit. Do you hear? Tsps. Feed my flesh to your followers. I leave the snake tail to you, so that you stay deceptive, you brief pleasure. At some point, we all return to God. At some point, everyone shares their location. The secret will be revealed beneath your fingers. Are you reading? Take the last screenshot in the name of your Lord, who taught you to type, who taught man that which he knew not. Are you reading? Break my bones, split my skull, suck the verses from my marrow. Soon tongues, hands and feet will bear the last witness. Are you reading?
Thanks so much. Thank you, Ozan. Do we have time for one question? Considering the last panel went over. So we can, okay, we'll take one question. Make it a good one. All right then. Okay, there's somebody right in the back.
Hello. So a lot of diverse poets. I can't really ask specific questions to each of you. So I just like to ask a generic one. What's your favorite literary device?
Favorite literary device?
Thank you very much for being here and for this question. I think, the definition of literary device is broad. And I want to say, for me, it's the imagination. When I learned creative writing, my creative writing teacher said, don't undermine the power of your inner mind. So each day, as I sit down to write, I trust my inner mind and where it takes me. And it's the imagination that took me to unexpected places. So when I drafted my novel, I never knew how it would end. And the ending always shocked me. And this is like, because I always say, whoa, this is what happened. And if I wanted to surprise myself with my writing, because only when I could shock or surprise myself, I could shock or surprise the reader. Thank you.
I'll just complete one thing.
I'll keep it very short. I didn't hear you speaking. Let's speak at the same time.
Yeah, it's okay. One voice, one chorus. No, I was just saying, it's not, speaking for me, it's not about finding the right device. It's always about opening your eyes to inspiration. Poetry is everywhere. It's going to save us all. So we just have to take a listen and be sure that we can marvel at the word, at each other, and then inspiration comes in whatever device.
Yeah, I'll keep it short. For me, it's prayer and understanding poetry as a reflection of God's love for us and among one another. Thank you.
One line. My device is my culture, my people, and my experience.
Thank you so much, everybody. Really, it is true, diverse voices up here on stage, but I have to say from experience, it's very rare to see a crowd like this for a poetry reading. Thank you.